I avoided my cute boss for 6 straight months. Took the stairs when she took the elevator. Ate lunch at my desk so I wouldn't see her in the break room. Left meetings early so she couldn't catch me for small talk. I dodged that woman like my life depended on it. But one night, alone in the office, she caught my arm in the hallway, looked me in the eyes, and kissed me first. And every wall I'd spent 20 years building came crashing down in a single breath. But here's what nobody understood. I wasn't avoiding her because I didn't like her. I was avoiding her because I liked her so much it terrified me. Because the last time I watched someone love that hard, it destroyed the strongest woman I've ever known. My mother. My name is Beckett Ashford. I'm 35 years old, creative director at a marketing firm, single, not by accident, by design. I grew up watching my father charm my mother, betray her, break her, and do it all over again with a smile on his face. I made a vow at 14 years old that I would never give anyone that kind of power over me. And for 20 years, I kept that promise. My boss was Margot Sinclair, 33 years old, VP of Client Strategy. And yes, she was cute. Not the cold, intimidating kind of boss you avoid out of fear. The warm, bright, sneakers with blazers, brings donuts on Mondays kind of boss you avoid because one smile from her could undo everything you've spent your whole life protecting. But why would a man run from a woman everyone else would run toward? What was Margot carrying behind that warm smile that nobody at work knew about? What finally made her stop waiting and kiss me first? And what broke open inside me when she did that? I'd been terrified to feel my entire life. Let me take you back. Columbus, Ohio, normal house, normal street. From the outside, nothing about my childhood looked broken. But inside those walls, my father, Warren Ashford, was taking apart my mother, one broken promise at a time. Warren was charming, the kind of man who could talk his way into any room and out of any consequence. He smiled big, laughed loud, made my mother, Diane, feel like the center of the universe, until she wasn't. The affairs started when I was 7. I didn't understand them then. I just knew some nights Mama sat at the kitchen table with swollen eyes and Daddy slept on the couch, and the whole house felt like it was sinking. By 10, I understood. By 12, I'd watched her forgive him 4 times. Each time she took him back, she lost a piece of something she never got returned. By 14, she stopped forgiving, filed for divorce on a Tuesday. Warren left on a Wednesday, didn't fight for us, didn't look back. Just drove away like 15 years of family was a rental he decided not to renew. Mama raised me alone after that. She never cried in front of me, never badmouthed him, but I'd hear her through the wall at night. Soft sobs she thought I couldn't hear, and every tear taught me the same lesson. Love is a blade. You hand it to someone and trust them not to cut you, and they always cut you. I sealed myself shut, dated in my 20s, nothing past a few months. And the moment a woman started looking at me the way Mama used to look at Warren, hopeful, trusting, like I was safe, I pulled the brake. Not cruelly, quietly. I'd become distant, unavailable, easy to let go of. By 35, I'd perfected the art of being alone and convinced myself it was freedom. It wasn't freedom. It was a cage with a nice view. Then I took the job at Ember and Stone Marketing. And on my 3rd day, Margot Sinclair walked into the Monday staff meeting carrying a box of donuts and wearing sneakers with a charcoal blazer, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. A pull, deep in my chest, the kind that doesn't ask permission. She was 5'5", brown eyes so warm they made fluorescent lighting feel like sunshine, dark brown hair usually in a loose knot or falling around her shoulders, a small daisy tattoo on her inner wrist, and a laugh that was too loud for boardrooms and absolutely perfect for everything else. She noticed me too. I know because Fletcher Dunn, the only coworker who'd crack my code, told me 3 times a week. She's looking at you again, man. Just talked to you in the meeting, and you gave her one word. One, you said noted. Who says noted to a woman like that? She's my boss, Fletcher. She's your boss who brought you a coffee last Tuesday without being asked. She's your boss who assigned you the biggest campaign because she trusts your eye. She's your boss who knows Eduardo the janitor's name because she saw you say it first and thought it mattered enough to learn. He leaned back. That woman is trying to know you, Beckett, and you're treating her like she's a fire alarm you're not allowed to pull. He was right, and I hated it, Because Margot wasn't making it easy to hide. She didn't push. She didn't demand. She just kept showing up. Warm. Present. Consistent. She'd stop by my desk with a question she clearly already knew the answer to. She'd mention a restaurant she liked and pause just long enough for me to take the hint. I never did. She remembered that I drank black coffee. She remembered that I mentioned my mother's birthday once in a meeting, and the next week she asked how the dinner went. She remembered everything, and every detail she held on to made the cage I was living in feel smaller. But what I didn't know, and what nobody at Ember and Stone knew, was that Margot Sinclair wasn't just a warm smile and sneakers and Monday donuts. She was carrying something heavy enough to bend steel. And the reason she noticed a man who held the elevator for a janitor was because she'd spent her whole life looking for someone who treated invisible people like they mattered. Because she'd been that invisible person once. And the woman who saved her from that invisibility was 81 years old and slowly running out of time. But that part of the story, the part that cracked me open in a stairwell and made me realize that avoiding Margot wasn't protecting me, it was punishing both of us. That part hadn't happened yet. The first crack happened on a Thursday. Margot came to work wearing yesterday's clothes. Same blazer, same sneakers. Hair not in its usual loose knot, but pulled back rough like she'd done it in a hospital bathroom mirror. She smiled at the front desk, said good morning in the hallway, ran her 9 a.m. meeting without a single person noticing anything was wrong. But I noticed, because when you spend 6 months studying someone from a distance you're not supposed to be watching from, you learn their rhythms, and hers were off. During lunch, I took the stairs to avoid the elevator. Same routine, same cowardice. But halfway down the second flight, I stopped. Margot was sitting on the steps, phone in her hand, head bowed, crying. Not the loud kind, the kind you do when you're trying to disappear inside yourself so nobody sees you breaking. My hand was on the door. Every instinct I'd built over 20 years screamed, walk away. Don't sit down. Don't get close. Close is where the blade gets in. But she looked so small on that cold concrete step. And something in my chest overruled my head for the first time in my adult life. I sat down beside her, didn't say a word, didn't ask what happened, didn't offer some useless line about everything being okay. I just sat there in a fluorescent lit stairwell and let her not be alone. She cried for 20 minutes. I stayed for every one of them. When she finally wiped her eyes, she said, "My grandmother fell last night. B. She's 81. She raised me after my parents died. She's all I have." Her voice cracked on the last word. They say she's fine, but she looks so fragile in that hospital bed, and I keep thinking what happens when fine isn't enough anymore. I didn't know about her parents then. I didn't know a 9-year-old girl had stood in her grandmother's kitchen eating cinnamon toast when the phone rang and the world split in half. I didn't know B. Sinclair had buried her own daughter and then took that little girl's hand and built an entire life out of pancakes and bedtime stories and a love so steady it never once needed to announce itself. All I knew in that moment was that the woman next to me was terrified of losing the only person she had left, and I understood that fear in a way I wished I didn't. "She sounds tough," I said. First words I'd spoken. Margot almost laughed. "She's the toughest person I know." To in meetings. Not the professional glance in meetings. Not the professional glance. Something deeper. Like she was seeing a door she'd been knocking on for months finally crack open an inch. "Thank you, Beckett, for sitting here." "Don't mention it." She stood up, wiped her face, straightened her blazer, walked back through the door and ran her 2 p.m. meeting like nothing happened. Yes, but something had happened. For the first time in 6 months I hadn't run, and both of us knew it. The second crack came 2 weeks later at the team dinner. Whole department. Italian restaurant downtown. Loud, loose, everyone 3 drinks into forgetting they had deadlines. I sat at the far end of the table nursing a water, doing my usual thing. Present but not participating. There but not really there. Then Margot started telling a story about B. She pulled her out of bed, carried her to the pulled her out of bed, carried her to the kitchen, turned on the radio and said, "We're going to dance, right now, because your mama loved to dance, and you're going to learn because some things are too important to let sadness steal from you." Margot stood there, 10 years old, barefoot on cold tile. And B took her hands and they danced to an old Motown song until Margot laughed for the first time in 3 months. She saved my life in that kitchen, Margot said, smiling at the memory. Not with medicine, not with therapy, with a radio and bare feet in the stubbornness to refuse to let me disappear. And I laughed. Not a polite chuckle, not a controlled smile, a real laugh. The kind that escapes before you can catch it. The kind that comes from somewhere honest. When the whole table went quiet, Fletcher stared at me like I'd just performed a magic trick. Two people across the table exchanged glances, because nobody at Ember and Stone had ever heard Beckett Ashford laugh. Not once. Not in 6 months. Margot looked at me, and her face did something I'll never forget. It went soft, surprised, stunned, like she'd been searching a house she thought she knew and just found a hidden room she didn't know existed. Our eyes held for 3 seconds, a 3 seconds that felt like an entire conversation. Then I looked away, picked up my water, and the moment passed. But it didn't really pass. It stayed, lodged in my chest like a warm splinter I couldn't pull out and didn't want to. The third crack was the one that shattered everything. Late night, emergency pitch for a new client. Everyone else had gone home. It was past 10 p.m. It just me and Margot in the conference room with takeout containers and laptop screens, and the kind of silence that only happens when two people are alone in a building that usually holds 100. We worked for 2 hours. Professional, focused. But the air was different, charged. Like the room knew something we were still pretending not to. Somewhere between the spring rolls and the third draft of the campaign, she stopped typing, set her pen down, and looked at me with those brown eyes that had been chasing me for 6 months. Can I ask you something? Depends. Why do you avoid me, Beckett? My stomach dropped. I'm not imagining it, she said. Calm, not accusatory, just honest. You leave every room I walk into. You won't look at me for more than 2 seconds. You eat at your desk to dodge the break room. You take the stairs every single day. She paused. So either you can't stand me, or you're scared of something. Silence. 3 steps from the elevator. 3 steps from doing what I'd always done. Running, hiding, keeping the cage locked from the inside. Her hand caught my arm. I turned. She was right there. She was refusing to let fall. She was refusing to let fall. You don't have to run from me, she said. You don't understand, Margot. Then help me understand. I opened my mouth to give another excuse, another deflection, another carefully constructed wall built out of words designed to keep her on the other side. But before a single syllable came out, she stepped forward and put her hand on the side of my face, rose up on her toes, and kissed me. Soft, deliberate, unhurried, not desperate, not aggressive. The kind of kiss that says, I see you, I've been seeing you, and I'm not going anywhere. I froze. 2 full seconds of absolute stillness. My brain screaming run, my chest screaming stay. 20 years of walls versus one woman's lips, and the smell of her shampoo and the warmth of her palm against my jaw. My hand came up to her waist, and I kissed her back. And every wall I'd spent 2 decades building collapsed in a single breath. Like they'd been waiting for permission to fall. Like they were never as strong as I thought they were. Like the only thing holding them up was fear, and the only thing it took to bring them down was a woman brave enough to kiss me first. We stood in that hallway for what felt like an hour, foreheads pressed together, breathing, not talking, just existing in a space where the running had finally stopped. Then she whispered, That's all I wanted, just to know you feel it too. I feel it, I said. I've felt it since the donuts. She laughed, a small, wet, relieved laugh that sounded like the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. But here's the part that keeps this story from being simple. Because the next morning, I woke up and the fear came back. Louder than before. And instead of running toward the woman who'd just broken me open, I did the only thing I knew how to do. I ran harder. And what happened next nearly cost me everything. The morning after the kiss, I ghosted her. Not officially. I showed up to work, sat at my desk, did my job. But I rebuilt every wall she'd torn down the night before and reinforced them with concrete. I went back to one-word answers, back to the stairs, back to eating at my desk, back to leaving rooms before she could enter them. But this time it was worse, because now she knew. She'd felt me kiss her back, and she'd heard me say, "I feel it too." And watching me retreat after that wasn't confusing anymore. It was cruel. Fletcher cornered me in the parking garage. "What is wrong with you? She kissed you. You kissed her back. And now you're acting like it never happened?" "It shouldn't have happened." "Why? Because you liked it too much?" I didn't answer. He stepped closer. "Beck, I've watched you dodge every good thing that's come your way for years. You're not protecting yourself. You're punishing yourself for something your father did. And Margot is paying the price." That one landed. Hard. But it wasn't Fletcher who broke me open for good. It was my mother. Sunday dinner. Mama's kitchen. Same table where I'd watched her cry over Warren 100 times. She was making pot roast. I was pretending everything was fine. She saw through it in about 3 seconds. "What's her name?" Diane said without looking up from the stove. "What?" "The woman you're running from. What's her name?" I stared at her. "How do you know I'm running from someone?" She turned around, wiped her hands on her apron, sat down across from me with the look only a mother can give. The one that says, "I know you better than you know yourself, and I've been waiting for you to catch up. Because you look exactly the way I looked every time your father walked out the door. Terrified, but not of being hurt." She paused. "Terrified of hoping." My throat closed. "Her name is Margot," I said. "Tell me about her." I told her everything. The donuts, the sneakers, the stairwell, the laugh at the team dinner, the kiss, the running, all of it. Mama listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that rearranged every belief I'd been living by since I was 14. "Beckett, the love wasn't the mistake. Staying silent was. Your father didn't break me because I loved him. He broke me because I was too afraid to love myself enough to demand better. I taught you the wrong lesson, baby. I taught you that love is dangerous. But love didn't destroy me. Cowardice did. His cowardice. And I'll be honest with you." Her eyes filled. "Watching you spend your whole life alone because of what your father did to me is the thing that hurts more than anything Warren ever did." I broke. Right there at that kitchen table. The same table where I'd learned to fear love. I sat and cried while my mother held my hands and gave me permission to unlearn everything. "She kissed you first," Mama said. "That means she's brave. Don't make a brave woman wait for a coward, Beckett." I drove to Margot's apartment that night, knocked on the door. She opened it in sweatpants and a messy bun, and eyes that were red from crying she'd probably been doing since I shut her out. "Before you say anything," I said, "I need you to know why I run. Not the excuse. Ask the real reason." She folded her arms, leaned against the doorframe. "Didn't invite me in. I deserve that." I told her everything. Warren, the affairs, my mother crying through the wall, the vow I made at 14, the 20 years of keeping everyone at arm's length because getting close meant handing someone a blade. Every woman I've ever dated, I left before it could matter, because if it didn't matter, it couldn't hurt. I swallowed. "Then you walked into a Monday meeting with donuts and sneakers and remembered the janitor's name because you saw me say it first. And you mattered. Immediately. And that scared me more than anything in my life." Her arms loosened. Her jaw trembled. I ran after the kiss because feeling that much for someone goes against everything I trained myself to be. "But my mother told me something tonight that I can't unhear." My voice cracked. "She said love didn't break her. Cowardice did. And I've been a coward, Margot. With you, and I'm done." Tears slid down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them. "I don't need you to be fearless," she whispered. "I just need you to stay." "I'm staying." She pulled me inside, held me in her hallway, and I held her back the way I should have held her the night she kissed me. With everything. No walls, no exits, no emergency brake. After that, I stopped running. Not overnight, not perfectly, but deliberately. Every day. I chose to stay instead of flee. And every day it got easier. I told Margot about Bee's fall. She told me she already knew I'd sat with her in the stairwell for 20 minutes without saying a word. "That's when I knew," she said. "Not when you laughed at dinner. Not when you kissed me back. When you sat on that step and just stayed. That's when I knew you were different." I met Bee on a Sunday afternoon. Drove to her house with flowers and a fear in my chest that no boardroom had ever produced. A Margot's grandmother, the woman who'd raised her from rubble, the only family she had left. This mattered more than any interview or pitch or presentation. B opened the door, 4'11", silver hair, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. She looked me up and down for 3 full seconds. So you're the one she won't shut up about. She turned and walked inside. Come in. I made pie. We sat in that kitchen for 2 hours. B told me about David and June, about the accident, about the phone call that changed everything, about picking up a 9-year-old girl who wouldn't eat and teaching her to dance on cold kitchen tile to Motown because grief needed to move through the body, not sit in it. She's my whole world, B said, looking at me with eyes that held 81 years of wisdom and zero tolerance for nonsense. And if you hurt her, I will haunt you from the afterlife. I'm not joking. I've already made arrangements. I laughed. She didn't. Can I hear you were avoiding her for 6 months, B said. Yes, ma'am. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I lived through the 70s. She leaned forward. Let me tell you something, Beckett. I lost my daughter on a highway. I've spent 24 years raising her child. And if there's one thing I know, it's that time doesn't wait for you to stop being afraid. Once you either grab the people you love with both hands, or you spend the rest of your life watching them through a window. She pushed a slice of pie toward me. Eat. You're too skinny to be this emotionally complicated. I ate the pie. It was the best thing I'd ever tasted. And sitting in that kitchen with an 81-year-old woman who'd survived more loss than most people could imagine, I understood something I'd been too blind to see. This is what love actually looks like. Not Warren's charm and betrayal, not whispered affairs and broken promises. Love looks like an old woman making pie for a stranger because her granddaughter's eyes light up when she talks about him. Love looks like bare feet on cold tile and a radio playing Motown at midnight. Love looks like showing up. Months passed, real ones. I restructured my role so Margot wasn't my direct supervisor. Did it without being asked. She tried to fight me on it. I said, Anna, you're not going to be my boss anymore because what I want to build with you is bigger than any org chart. She stopped fighting. Fletcher threw a small party in the break room when word got out, taped a sign to my desk that said, "The stairs are free now." I left it there for a week because it made Margot laugh every time she walked by. I took the elevator from that day forward. Sundays became sacred. Brunch at B's. Margot and I would cook while B supervised from her chair and criticized our technique with the precision of a retired general. That's not how you chop an onion, Beckett. My God, were you raised by wolves? Close, I said. I was raised by a seamstress. Even worse. At least wolves are coordinated. Margot would laugh so hard she'd cry. And I'd stand there in that kitchen, onion in one hand, spatula in the other, watching the two women who'd rebuilt my understanding of love from the ground up. And I'd feel something so foreign, I almost didn't recognize it. Wholeness. The absence of absence. A man no longer running from his own heart. One evening, Margot and I were at B's cleaning up after dinner. B had gone to bed early. The house was quiet. Margot was washing dishes. I was drying. The radio was on low. An old Motown song came on. And the same one B had played the night she taught Margot to dance on cold tile 24 years ago. Margot stopped washing, stared at the radio. Her eyes glistened. I set down the dish towel, took her hand, pulled her gently away from the sink. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "Something your grandmother taught you. Some things are too important to let fear steal from you." We danced in B's kitchen, barefoot on cold tile, just like a 10-year-old girl and her grandmother had done 2 decades before. Margot pressed her face into my chest and I held her, and we swayed to a song that meant everything to a woman who'd lost her parents and been saved by bare feet and music and stubborn, relentless, unreasonable love. "I avoided you for 6 months," I said into her hair. "I know. Dumbest thing I ever did. I know that too. I'm never avoiding anything again." She pulled back, looked up at me, brown eyes, at a voice. "If you two wake me up with all a voice, if you two wake me up with all that dancing, I'm selling the house." B, from her bedroom, 81 years old and still sharper than both of us combined. Margot buried her laugh in my chest. I held her tighter, and the Motown played on. So if you're out there right now hiding from someone who makes your heart race, Dodging someone who makes you feel things you swore you'd never feel again. Hear me. The walls you built to protect yourself are the same walls keeping out the person who could change your life. And the bravest thing you'll ever do isn't loving someone. It's letting someone love you. Stop running. Take the elevator. Eat in the break room. Let her catch you in the hallway. And if she kisses you first, for the love of everything sacred, kiss her back. Now I need you to think about this one. Is there someone in your life right now, someone you care about deeply, that you've been keeping at arm's length because you're afraid of what happens if you let them in? What would change if you stopped hiding and just said the truth? Tell me in the comments. Be honest. Because somebody scrolling past your answer tonight is doing the exact same thing you are. And your words might be the reason they finally stop running. If this story made you feel something, if it reminded you of someone or made you rethink a wall you've been building, hit that subscribe button right now. Tap that notification bell wherever you're watching from. This channel is where guarded hearts come to remember that love isn't the enemy. Fear is. I'll see you in the next one.